Welcome back to another edition of Zero Blog 30. Today we have two rounds in the magazine. Round number one, the old military is doing something that I didn't expect. They didn't do it for us, and I'm a little bit jealous. Because it might have changed my life a little bit. Changed my life just a little bit, but for the worse. But some of these people might be for the better.
Okay.
That was a lot of information for you to know what we're going to talk about. See what that is. It's a teaser in the business.
Okay.
Even though people are already listening, it's a teaser in the business.
Family policy change. I'll say that.
Damn it, Kate. And round number two, we're going to be talking about some horses in London that went absolutely buck wild and injured a bunch of people and injured themselves. So it's real light. It'll be a light story, but it is kind of funny.
Okay.
Horse blood and stuff aside, kind of a funny story.
Okay.
And all that's going to be brought to you by our good friends at Mad Rabbit.
Mad Rabbit.
It's Mad Rabbit season. I don't know about you, but I wish something like Mad Rabbit was around when I first got my terrible, terrible tattoos. Because if my terrible tattoos had Mad Rabbit, they wouldn't look faded as hell. They wouldn't look like a kindergartner, like this koi fish.
You wouldn't be calling them terrible tattoos. You'd be calling them good tattoos still, because Mad Rabbit would have helped you keep them primo.
Because look at these. Like, they're the green and the teal, no longer really green or teal. It just looks like a big old smudge. But that wouldn't have happened if I had Mad Rabbit, because it's peak beach season, and you know what that means. My tattoos are in full view, to include Kate's tramp stamp.
Yes. I'm going to be starting to put Mad Rabbit on it, keep it fresh. But tattoo aftercare, that's something too, that when I got my tattoo artist was not given. This was in 1992. They didn't have Mad Rabbit back then. They didn't help me out with that.
Yeah, they did.
Wait, time out. How old were you? Or what year was it that you got your tattoo?
I was 18 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was 18 too. So it was the year 2000.
Yeah.
Is when it happened for me.
2000.
Did you know 30% of Americans have tattoos and 40% of people under 35 had tattoos? I would have thought that it's more.
I would have too.
Yeah.
I would have thought it'd been like 60. Like those old adage, you're not going to get a job if you have tattoos. I don't think that's a thing anymore, unless it's face, neck, or hands.
Yeah. And even then.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do.
That's right.
But even if you have face tattoos, Mad Rabbit is committed to reinventing the tattoo aftercare. It's founded by two friends with a passion for ink. Mad Rabbit creates simple, effective, and natural products that help improve and preserve tattoos, all delivered directly to your door. Their hero product, the Tattoo Bomb, sells once every 90 seconds for a reason. It revitalizes, replenishes, and preserves the tattoo ink, and clean with natural ingredients, and it's effective on both new and old tattoos. Oh, it'll work on my old tattoos.
We might be okay after all.
Perfect. What percentage of tattoo artists would you say are actually talented?
Now, I would say that number is a lot higher than it used to be, because you have Pinterest, you have not Pinterest,
tutorials online, like people can actually train and practice and whatever.
Yeah, Instagrams, all that. Like, people know that if it's going to look really bad, you don't have those.
Now in the barracks, still bad.
Oh yeah, prison,
still okay.
I had our medic. He was doing tattoos in the aid station in Iraq.
I mean, that's good business.
All he has to do is give a Mad Rabbit, because all skin types, old tattoos, new tattoos, they've preserved over 3 million tattoos, and they've got an exclusive offer just for Zero Blog 30 listeners. If you go to madrabbit.com/ZBT25 and use the promo code ZBT25, you will get 25% off. That's 25% off when you head to madrabbit.com/ZBT25 and use promo code ZBT25.
All right, so before we start, what we're going to talk about today, I need to do an update.
Oh, boy.
On the Army captain that we talked about last week. This boot-ass bitch graduated boot camp. He was standing there, not even in Lance Corporal chevrons. I about threw up on my computer screen when I saw this guy. Almost threw up. And not only is he fucking going from a captain, which it said it in the article that I read today, $6,300 used to be his base pay.
$6,800.
$6,800, and now it's $2,200 a month. What a dumb bitch that guy is.
That's
maybe he comes from a wealthy family.
That makes it even more appropriate. He's a PFC. I was a staff sergeant. I'll tell him to his face, a little boot ass bitch. And he's 29 years old.
Yeah.
Even at just 29, I would be like, I don't know, man. Like that's older.
I had an oldie. I had a woman who was 32 go through boot camp with me on a waiver, and she was awesome.
Was she?
We became buddies at MCT.
That's
you know, you're
so
late night patrolling on security, and you start chatting with people. She had lived a whole life before the Corps.
I mean, if you decide that wants to be your career, you're talking a 40-year-old sergeant.
She had arthritis.
I don't know if you think about career at that age,
arthritis.
I have to imagine going through boot camp a little bit older is so much easier because you can just understand the mind games and you just know yourself better and your discipline and your ability to maybe mentally block out things that are bothering you is a lot easier.
You think it's weirder? It's got to feel weird to be older than your DIs. A little bit.
And have more. I mean, he has to have more ribbons and medals too. Because it's not like, I mean, right now, if you're as a drill instructor, you're probably a staff sergeant, maybe a gunny, like with different recruits. So you got that spot. You've probably been in 12 years. So 12 years ago, that was 2012. Things really had started to slow down as far as combat action ribbons and all that kind of stuff. So you definitely have a lot of people that he was in boot camp with, his drill instructors, that had far less because there's some sergeants there too. Like, and that's a majority is sergeants and staff sergeants.
I'll tell you this, going to be weird dating within his pay grade.
So
young ladies or gentlemen.
Yeah. He needs a waiver for that.
Yep.
He needs a fraternization waiver.
You need a fraternization chit so he can date staff NCOs. Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you come in next year, he's a Lance Corporal dating another Lance Corporal. It's fucking 19.
Still weird.
Creep.
Still weird.
Creep. Big creep vibes.
Uh-oh.
Anyways, hate that guy. Like,
okay.
I know.
I like him just to be contrarian.
I don't hate him personally. No, I do.
I don't.
I wouldn't be friends with this guy.
Come on the show, please. And be super fun. I mean,
he's
cool.
welcome to come on because I need to hear this rationale.
Maybe he's hilarious. Maybe he's like super fun.
Because every time I've seen his rationale, it makes no sense to me. He wanted to go to the Crucible. How the fuck do you even know what the Crucible is?
What if he does come from a lot of wealth? His family's super wealthy and money's kind of no object. And
worse, because he's slumming with the poors, Cons. He's slumming with the poors. I think that makes it. There's nothing about this that I could think is possibly good.
I just saw this thing where this like super millionaire dude was like, I'm shutting off my bank account access for the next year and starting on the street with $0. And I am going to become
telling
a millionaire.
Me that you guys don't listen to what I say.
Yeah, Con said that last week.
Guy up
oh my God, I really wasn't listening. But listen, here's the thing. He had
that was a good recap in case somebody missed last week.
He had the brain tools. That's the difference. And this guy has the brain tools to really, that's what I totally listened to you. I just had a different take on it.
So if this guy going to boot camp, you know, they use boot camp phrases like brain housing group, for example.
Brain housing group.
My Viking books use a different one. Once again, the Vikings are better than us. They say thought cage.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like he was rolling it around in his thought cage. I like that. All right, let's move on to some things that the military is doing that dumbass PFC could probably use as he goes through his time in the military. Kate, what do we have here?
Well, first off, I'm already feeling bad about not listening to Cons last week, and I will stew on that for quite some time. I'm sorry.
No, it's not like you have really bad anxiety where you dwell on things.
I'm going to dwell on it, and I'm going to feel bad. I'll probably text you after the show. I'm sorry. I do generally listen to you. It's going to bother me. Anyways, the Marine Corps is creating a billet aimed at keeping dual military families, and that's marriages where both spouses are service members, together during moves to new duty stations. And the amount of dual spouse, like 2 Marines, 2 soldiers, is incredibly high.
Very high.
Because for us ladies, buddy, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. You're probably going to end up marrying another troop.
Yeah.
The odds are very high.
Yeah.
Anyway, the billet, which is called the Dual Military Coordinator, will act as a liaison between couples and their career monitors in an attempt to alleviate stress associated with order assignments, which can result in families being separated from each other for extended periods of time. Such separations are a quality of life issue that can directly affect a Marine's decision to stay in the service. And this is true. I knew they tried not to. I'm sure, but I knew troops who were deployed, and then as soon as they got home or right before they got home, their spouse deployed. So they would go over a year without seeing each other. And they would, again, try not to do that. But how hard were they really trying not to do that?
No, I don't think they actually try.
And if
I don't think they didn't give a shit.
And sometimes these troops had kids. And it's like, how the fuck does a family manage that without absolutely falling apart?
They
I
just
have
say
no
family
idea.
care plan.
Yep.
And family care plan really assumes that you have an extended family or extended friend group, which is just not true for a lot of people.
And if your partner is pregnant or whatever, and you're on a billet here and they're there, like, you want to be near them. God forbid something like, I don't know. Anyway, very stressful. So this is a good thing. I'm just excited to help talented Marines stay in uniform because I know they often choose to get out because they feel like they don't have any other option. A rep told military.com. More than 8,600 Marines are married to another service member, and thousands of couples are ordered to new duty stations every year. Not only do those service members have to meet the needs of the service, but that of their family, and those responsibilities are often conflicting. So yeah, no shit, people are going to get out if they feel like, and don't get me, this is a whole other issue, but I'm sure we've all been reading about the childcare issues going
That's
on.
coming.
God damn, it's crazy.
Yeah, we have some of that talk too. And I think that they actually are trying to do some things to alleviate it now that it's so obviously a big thing. But when I came back from a deployment, even though I begrudgingly, I hate saying it, I was married previously. And whenever I was coming home, she had orders to go be a drill instructor, and I had orders to go be the kennel master at Quantico. So she was going to be in South Carolina working like crazy drill instructor hours, and I was going to be on Quantico doing my own thing, being a single dad.
Yep.
I know people who have dual income like that can see down the road where one person will get stationed in Japan for like a year, 2 years unaccompanied, and one will go to California, that they know that realistically your marriage is not going to survive.
No.
If you're 2 years away from each other, you're just not going to survive. And so it also leads to divorce, because if you're struggling already in your marriage, which a lot of people in the military are, very high divorce rates, and you see that come down, you're just like, well, let's just throw in the towel.
I'll also say this. I know for a fact, because I witnessed it when I was in, Marines who were struggling in their marriages struggled at work.
Oh,
like
everybody.
Yes. And it's not just marriage, it's everything. It's when you're stressed about trying to feed your family, when you're stressed about maybe trying to find somebody a job because you just got to a new duty station, that ultimately bleeds into work. You're coming to work every day, your head's not there. And, last time I checked, the military's still doing stuff that's pretty intense and can cost people their lives. So you need to be focused. It's very dangerous. So it's just so refreshing to see. We joke, and anybody who served will make the joke that, common sense is one of the things that's not very common in the military. And now you're starting to see things like this, like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't you just try to figure that out? Because 8,600 Marines sounds like a large number, but I think relative to the Marine Corps, it's small. So if you just put someone who's dedicated, because I think, Chaps, when you were married to another service member,
that's the last time I'm bringing that up.
All right, I won't say it anymore. If it's like an afterthought, right? Like you said, Kate, like, oh, they try, but who's really trying? But if someone is dedicated, holy shit, that's a really big hawk that's right next to my window. Sorry.
Language con.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, the burbs, man. This is the burbs. Sorry, I gotta get a picture of this.
Gotta get a picture of this mid-podcast.
But yes, I see what I'm saying. It's like not that hard to accommodate these troops, and the
when
whole
you
Marine
have
Corps
someone
is
who's
better
dedicated to doing it.
And it's like, why didn't they do this sooner? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah,
there's
and
so
all
much
those
needless, dumb bullshit that families get put through in the Corps, and
the tentacles of marriage problems go everywhere.
Oh yeah,
like everywhere. It affects
Sure do.
every little portion of your life. If you're having
helps the local strip club though. I'll tell
yeah,
you that
how you're treating your subordinates.
Yep.
How you're responding to your superiors.
Yep.
All those things go into play. So I'm glad that they're doing that. Now let's just see, because a lot of times the Marine Corps is real good at, oh shit, we got some bad news going on in the news about us. Let's dump this out. Oh, we're actually creating this billet. Now, if that billet actually does something, that remains to be seen. Yeah. Unlike an actual order, because this is pie in the sky. This is theoretical. It's not actually happening right now, but they're training people. There's another base that is actually doing something I think is even more, and well, not more impressive, but just the stroke of the pen improves people's lives.
Yes. So one of the Army's highest profile divisions has set a ban on most work-related cell phone usage after work hours. Major General David Doyle, commander at Fort Carson, Colorado-based 4th Infantry, issued a memo last week barring leaders from texting or calling subordinates between 6 p.m. and 5 a.m. with, of course, some caveats, including communication for health and safety or personal communications. Obviously, it's an emergency. Go ahead, call. A big change of plans because of the weather. Go ahead, call, whatever. But I will say, even back in our day, you were expected. If your higher up texted you, you better answer within 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
If it's 3 a.m, 4 a.m, your phone had to be on at all times. If you missed a call, God rest your soul.
I was taking a shit, Sergeant.
God rest your soul. So even on the weekends, even if you were on leave, on vacation with your family, on whatever, like it was a big deal if you took too long to respond to somebody, even if it was about the most bullshit reason ever. And that was stressful. That could be stressful in its own. We also often used to ask each other, like, what the fuck did the Marine Corps do before cell phones? Like, how did anyone function? Because all day long, we were getting pinged for this or that and this or that, blah, 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 blah. Yep. So anyway, this is a real thing. And I hope they keep it and stick with it and see positive changes from leaving the troops the fuck alone in their off hours.
Great idea. You wonder, though, all right, let's say you're an E5, you get a text from your commander and it's 7 p.m. and you're sitting down to dinner with family and your commander. It's very subjective, right? So he's like, this is really important and you have to know this now. I wonder, is there any recourse for that E5 to say, like, hey, the commander texted me last night and he wasn't supposed to? Or is that just going to fall by the wayside, I would imagine?
I would imagine that it's more designed for small unit leaders, because that's what I see. Like the biggest complaint is when it's E7s and below that are contacting their troops, like the direct supervisors, because I mean, a company commander is not going to be texting a fucking Lance Corporal to tell him like what he has to do in the morning. That word from a company level officer or even a company level enlisted person like a first sergeant is going to likely come during the day. It's the small unit leaders that are constantly bothering these people. And so I was actually shocked that they could do this. And I would bet, no doubt, this will have zero impact on readiness.
Yep.
And it'll just prove that we've been doing it for decades just because we could do it for decades.
Yep. So that's a good.
Oh, you're saying now that they don't have the ability to text someone at 10 at night, nothing's going to change?
Yeah, there won't be a single thing to change. And I think it actually forces leaders to be more organized. If you think that there's going to be bad weather, look at the weather app. You have 15 on your phone. If it looks like it's going to rain in the morning and you don't want to do that training, then cancel it the day before. And if it doesn't happen to rain, then it doesn't rain. If somebody doesn't run one day a week because they thought it was going to rain, we're not going to lose the war to North Korea.
Right.
You know?
No.
But I like how
another common sense thing here that just makes so much sense. And the ramifications, because we've all had that boss, right? Where you get a pit in the stomach when you get a phone call, an email, a text. Before you even read what it says, you get a pit in your stomach. To eliminate that from your life is a game changer.
Yeah. There's another part that I'm not sure if this is going to be good or not of this same one, where it says the personal use of cell phones during the work-related meetings is an unnecessary distraction for missing focus. I agree with that. Units will make every effort to avoid personal cell phone use during the work-related meetings or unit meetings. I agree with that. But if you can't have it at any time during the day, I feel like you're missing the mark a little bit there, because there's, just like we said, with families being important, we're at a day and age where you're almost expected to be able to answer the phone. Like if your kids are sick, like you got to go get them. Like,
well, I'm sure for this, like you can flip your phone out of your pocket and check it real quick. You know what I mean? I think he's talking more about the constant gazing that's happening with everybody's personal phones these days, trying to put a stop to that. But it sounds like this person is pretty level-headed.
Yeah, it does. And it seems like commander's intent is going to matter there a lot. Like but the interpretation of commander's intent oftentimes gets a little bit skewed by the enlisted folks.
He makes it pretty clear that he says, like, if you have 3 tickets left for the football game this weekend, you can text that at 10 at night if you want to.
Yeah.
And we're like, cool shit, good shit, health, safety, yada, yada.
Yeah, but no, like, be here at doing this.
Yeah.
The last line of it says there should be no work-related texts, chats, or messages communicated 1 hour past the soldier's duty day until 1 hour prior the next duty day, or unless a unit or a person is working due to mission requirements. I mean, I think that's beautiful. From 05 to 1800 is your working time, and then you're off. The work-life balance thing seems to be important here.
Yes, I think it is. I think that's a good
And
thing.
I think you'll just see the positive impact down the line.
Yeah.
Because if you're not getting interrupted during family time, then that means you're not getting into a fight with your spouse who is furious with your leaders continuing to reach out to you. And as a result, you're coming to work the next day in a good mood. And then you're going to do well in training that day. You know, it's just, it all
Yeah, when you're
snowballs
home,
from there.
even if you're not like a family member and are not like married, if you just want to sit in the barracks and play Fortnite or Call of Duty, you should be able to do that without having to pause your game like every 5 minutes. I think that's great. All right, there's one more good news thing, and it does have to do with childcare, Kate.
Yes, it does. A new bill would allow military childcare facilities to partner with civilian daycares and increase the number of workers at military bases, addressing a major quality of life issue for military members, highlighted in a recent congressional report.
That's basically this story here.
Yeah.
I don't know why this took so long. It's almost like military leaders and congressional leaders have thought that posse comitatus applies to daycares as well. You can have the intermingling of some civilian things with DoD things, and this makes perfect sense. And the amount of people that they're going to try to hire is pretty awesome, because there's so many reports also with talking about retention. One of the spouses can't really elevate themselves in their career. Like the career of the non-military member always falls to the wayside comparatively, because the military member is going to be required to move every 3 years, which means by and large, the military spouse is going to have to give up their career, give up their current spot that they're working at, if it's not like a huge chain that is where you can be anywhere. I think this helps a lot.
Yeah, and finding childcare is hard enough. There's wait lists on everything. I was reading about certain bases where the parents were having to drive over an hour each way to get their kids, like toddlers and shit, to daycare. And again, you can't have a normal job if you can't get to work on time, if you can't get your kid to daycare on time. Like it's all like a thing of dominoes. And I was reading too about these kids need a ton of supervision. It's crazy. If you don't have enough teachers in a classroom or daycare providers in a classroom for the amount of kids, it's unsafe. And there's been all kinds of reports coming out about military childcare lately that is tough. 20% of active duty spouses identified childcare access as a significant barrier that they face in pursuing their jobs or careers. So 20%, that's huge. And it's just been I've been reading a ton of shit about.
And having them come on base is important, because that subsidy should exist whether it's on base or off base. Like there is a subsidy for military members where it's going to make it a little bit cheaper, because if you don't have that deal with it's kind of like a status of forces agreement in your own little area, where if you don't have that, I mean, with as much money as you pay in daycare, how in the world could you pay over $1,000 a month? Like well over, right?
About $2,000 for each kid.
Yeah. There is no military
and that's
member
on the
that
cheap
can
end for our area.
Like you can't afford that.
No.
You just can't. Like when we talk about even that captain, the Army captain making $6,800 a month. Once you start talking about $2,000, you're at $4,800. And then you have your mortgage on top of it. Everybody, if you have kids and you're below the rank of like major, that problem alone is going to cause you to be living essentially paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's for an Army captain. Imagine what it's like for the corporal that just got married and they have a kid together like that.
And again, it puts people who are desperate in desperate situations with childcare, which puts the kid in danger sometimes, which you cannot focus, you cannot function if that's a worry that you have. It's like the whole thing is
and you can't worry if you're broke. Like if you have poor credit, because people will be swiping their credit cards on stuff.
Yeah.
The tentacles of that are far reaching as well.
But going back to the stress, like, if you have to worry about your kid during the day, like we have friends who actually a week into daycare, some bad thing, not horrible, like their child wasn't being beat or anything, but just their child wasn't getting the attention they thought was necessary during the day, which is perfectly reasonable. A weekend they switched daycares, and
you can't
I get
function.
that.
You can't think.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
You know, you're entrusting your child to the care of ultimately strangers to start, and that peace of mind is so important. And I hope, and this is certainly something that would have to occur down the line, but because you're now allowed to partner with these civilian daycare operations, maybe hopefully more will pop up, and that will alleviate maybe some of the cost. And also, there's 4 or 5 daycares in the area where I live that we could have sent my daughter to and toured them all. You don't feel it's not like every daycare is built the same. It's not like you feel great about every single daycare. So if there's more than one option, because what if you go to the one option that's outside of Fort Carson, and it's not a good fit for your child for whatever reason, but then you're just stuck? That's a crappy feeling too.
Yeah, and it's basically like a wine list where you don't want the cheapest one and you can't afford the most expensive.
Right.
So you got to go with like the third most expensive or cheapest on the list so you get the best deal out of there. Either way, tough for military families, and hopefully they'll get more of those. And I'm glad to see that they're going to be training them on base too, training some of the spouses where they could work there and transfer base to base in the CDC and work at those different places. Not the CDC that so many people don't like, but the CDC on base. Let's move on to round number 2. We're going to head over to foggy London town.
Ooh, foggy London town. 4 people have been taken to the hospital after 5 runaway horses of the household cavalry threw off their riders and raced through London.
Because they heard on the radio the Macarena.
The Macarenas was back in 1991. For the horses, one of which was covered in blood, and it had to be the bright white horse was the one covered in blood.
Oh,
very dramatic looking.
Oh, yeah.
Caused chaos.
Shout out to Treyu.
Shout out Trey. And it was the white horse that was absolutely soaked in it. They roamed the city center, collided with vehicles, including a double-decker bus and a taxi. They initially became spooked by loud construction during a routine military exercise in Belgravia. The officers said the horses have now been recovered and returned to camp. 2 of the animals were recovered in Limehouse at East of London. We know that. Long-time stories in Limehouse.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
More than 5 miles from where the incident began. They are undergoing veterinary care.
Imagine because each person like handles their own horse. Essentially, they're like dog handlers, but for horses.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine what it's like going to your chain of command and being like, one of the horses got away. They hit a double-decker bus. They're bleeding all over the place, and they're about 5 miles away.
And actually, it was 5 of our horses. And
Yeah.
there are 4 of the horses.
The only thing that I like close to that, and maybe worse, is when I was deployed, there was another dog handler that whenever you did 5s and 25s, you got out as a dog handler and you searched everything, you put your dog off leash a little bit. Well, the dog got spooked somehow, or it was just like had the zoomies and fucking took off into the desert, was just going. And this Marine was like, I don't know what I should do. Should I run through this field by myself to go get the dog? The dog's not returning. And they ended up not finding the dog. The dog was just fucking gone.
Oh my God.
Gone.
That's not good.
And the chain of command obviously was pissed. But what are you supposed to do? Like, your job was to let the dog go off leash. So, because if you're in that area, if somebody's going to get popped, you want it to be the dog and not the human. And the dog just fucking takes off running.
What'd you do? I don't know.
I have no idea. And that made it difficult to discipline I wasn't in that position at that time. But I think intent is important there too.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't intentionally 99.99 times that dog doesn't do it. But it's that 0.01 where it does happen, just like this. Like, I'm sure those horses are around loud noises all the time.
There had to be the hottest dog in town was in heat on the other side of town.
Yeah.
Chaps something.
Get some Iraqi strange.
Yeah.
To your 99%, how much leeway is given to, at the end of the day, this thing is still an animal and might have some instincts that it acts on?
I think that is the only reason why people felt terrible for the dude. Because once it was like 5.5 months into a deployment, and once you're that close to your dog, anything happening to is gutting. So coming back without your dog, I think they eventually found it too. I think it eventually came back, if I remember correctly, because the dude was super relieved, but I don't know if it was because he's in trouble. But either way, it's terrible. But the punishment whenever Its negligence is so much more.
Yeah.
Like I had Marines that would leave their dogs in the van. And like one time he left a dog in the van, and luckily Dockrell, who's been on the show, he forgot something at the kennels that he needed for his house, went back, and the dog was barking in the van. And Dockrell called me, and he was like, dude, you're not gonna fucking believe this. Massey left his dog in the kennel. And I was like, see, I think that the old general earlier wouldn't allow this. Now I was like, tell him to get his bitch ass to the kennel. They would have
allowed it for that, for sure, for sure. That would have been allowed. But yeah, I totally see that.
I made him go back to his house, bring in all of his dress uniforms and all of his service uniforms. And he was like, am I doing uniform inspection, Staff Sergeant? I was like, no, you're not. You are going to take these down to alteration so they can go ahead and prep them for your new rank, because you won't be wearing that one for long.
Yeah. Crazy. Understandable in that circumstance.
Yeah. I always thought that was a pretty good one, right? That was a good one.
That is good.
In this case, real quick, like, as I'm not an animal expert, but I know that horses spook easily.
Oh, big time.
And I would never, like, I've been hammered drunk. New Orleans, homecomings at colleges. I've been real drunk around horses. And even mega drunk Kate knows, don't make sudden movements. Don't be a dickhead. Don't.
Yeah, because I've seen it on TikTok recently with people that are going up to the Royal Guards and like making faces at the horses or like trying to touch the horse. And then the guy is like, get back from the Queen's Guard. Well, stay away from the Queen's Guard.
In this case, they're getting ready for like the king's birthday party or something like that. And so they're this big group of royal horses. There was like 8 of them, and they're right next to a construction site. And the construction site like dropped a majorly heavy load onto the ground, and that's what sent it going.
Brother, I've dropped a major heavy load.
I knew as soon as I said it. But I feel like if I was the construction team and I saw all those horses there, I'd be like, heads up. We're about to like drop a load. Yeah, we're about to drop a big old load over here.
But these horses are huge too. They're like they have to be 6 feet tall.
I think Governor about to drop a big old load over here, Governor.
Like not their heads, their bodies are 6 feet tall. Like that's me. Like a horse going up to my
like a horse's back is at the top of your head. Basically. Yeah. I remember one time we were down on 6th Street in Austin. And a buddy of mine, he had a few drinks, but he wasn't belligerent or anything. He went to just go pet one of the horses with the police officer. And that police officer, she grabbed him so hard and screamed, do not ever touch one of our horses. Ever. Or I will hurt you.
Yeah, and they should, rightfully so, because you have a horse spooked. This is exactly what happens. One of the bystanders said, I saw about 5 fire engines. I saw one horse that was involved, saw some members of the army. It was quite a scene with lots of emergency service putting up cordons. One of the black horses was there. I thought maybe it was a police horse that had come to attend the scene, but obviously I know now it was one of the horses that had escaped. I saw what looked like a taxi van that had damage to it, smashed window. And I think everyone's immediate impression was that somebody had been hit by a car. We were surprised when we realized it was to do with the horses. I don't know what you do, man. I don't know.
Drop loads. You can't drop loads next to horses. I have a fun horse. Little known fact, I grew up in Chester County, not Delco, despite me trying to make people believe real hard that I did grow up in Delco because I like the accent so much. But anyway, my neighborhood was wedged between 2 horse farms, like people who raised horses to race them, like fancy ass shit. Our neighborhood, not fancy, surrounded by horse farms. And every now and then, the Thorington's horse farm, these horses would sell for like millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Because they were dropping loads.
Some of our neighbors worked on the horse farm. Like the farm was so rich, they bought houses in our neighborhood for the farm workers to live in. And every now and then when a horse was being born or in the springtime when there was foals, they would call and let us come up, like the kids, and hang out on the horse farm and like see shit. But anyway.
Sugar cubes involved? Or?
One morning. Oh, yeah. The flat hand carrots. Yeah. I shocked myself on an electric fence once trying to feed a horse. Anyway, I was standing at my bus stop one morning in middle school and I hear nobody's around. Sun's coming up. You had to get the bus at like crack of dawn. I was the first one on the bus usually. Well, I won't get into it, but I'm still bitter about it.
Yeah, you should be.
Cool part of the story. Anyway, I'm standing at the bus stop. The sun's coming up. Nobody around. Horse farm across the street. neighborhood behind me, and I hear, and I'm like, what the fuck? A horse comes sprinting around the curve, down the street, right in front of me, like whooshed my bangs. It ran so fast and then just disappeared down the street. And I was like, what the fuck? Oh my God.
But also awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And then I was like, now what do I do? And I just got on my bus and went to school.
What else could you do? Little Katie fucking running after it, hopping on like Zorro.
Yep. Another time I was standing on the grate there waiting for the bus. Bee went up my pants, got me right in the calf.
Oh, shit. Better than the butt cheek.
Yep, that's true. Anyway.
Horses are cool, though.
Good point, Cons.
Yeah, let me tell
that
you.
whole story out. By
No,
the way.
no,
That was
keeping
a
that.
long,
Yeah.
dumb story.
Listen, two things
I'm
are
going to
cool.
make that a clip.
Music
when
and
Cons
horses.
goes. Horses
now.
are cool. What?
It's the Kentucky Derby.
Oh,
Yeah, we got the Kentucky Derby coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
what I was
that's
gonna
why
say
those
was,
horses were on the run for it. They
Maybe.
wanted to go watch. They're huge mint julep fans.
Yep.
maybe they have cousins running in the Derby, Kate.
Good.
And you know all about cousins.
Good, yeah. Got 28 of them.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you this. One of my biggest regrets is that 20s Kate never made it to the Kentucky Derby because I would fucking crush mint juleps. I went through a huge mint juleps kick at the end of my 20s. And I feel like I would have made it across. They do that thing there at the Kentucky Derby where the drunks run across the top of all the porta potties. Have you seen
Oh,
that?
yeah.
And I think
No,
I
that's
could
the
have done it.
You would have crushed that.
That's
And
the
yeah.
some
Preakness.
rich dude would have been watching from the stands and he would have been like, oh my God, did you see that chick just ran across?
Hello, nurse.
And my life would be very different now.
Kate, I think you're thinking of the Preakness, which is usually like around Memorial Day
Oh,
weekend.
you got the wrong. Oh, you got the wrong horse race, Kate. Oh, oh, mother got me this nice little hat.
I'm just saying.
Credit to Cons last week whenever he was talking about what floor he had to go to the laundry.
Yes.
He texted us that we had lost our
Huge
fastball a
miss by
little bit,
us.
and he was right. When he's right, he's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I wish our military had more horses. Like we have horses in the cavalry, but it's just really for ceremonies and such. I'm talking we should give horses to folks on the line, like troops, like who need horses.
We
as a
should
way to get
run. We
around.
should all run as a cohesive
Or mini
team
horse.
for president. And our big running point is that we should have more horses.
More horses.
Yeah. At least a mini horse.
Should've
Rome
never
just
gotten rid
got
of
back
them.
from Iceland. Nice vacation there, and he said, "Buddy, they're eating them by the dozen."
Oh, yeah. Horse
really?
sashimi is a big thing in Japan, too.
By the way, speaking of Roan, and he and his wife, they go on the greatest trips. I don't know if you
They
follow
do.
them. You know, they're just very well traveled. If you're
They
looking for
do.
places to go.
And before we move on to save rounds and alibis, I watch these TikToks, and you might see them, Kate, too. Have you seen them where there's like a little tiny farm and there'll be like a little kid, like 3 or 4 years old, that'll run up to the stable like fences and they'll call out a name and then there'll be a donkey that comes a running and the donkey hears the kid, you know, like so excited to see the little kid. It makes my heart swell.
My dad used to go for long walks where we lived, and again, we're surrounded by like horse farm country. And there was a donkey and a cow that were friends in this one
Oh, I
little
love that.
paddock. And my dad walked by so much that when I go for walks with him, he's like, watch out, here comes, I think he was like named White Sox or something like that because he had little white hooves or something. And he's like, watch, he could probably already hear me coming. And the donkey would come pumped to see my dad every
I love
time.
it,
Yeah.
man. That's so
I
awesome.
love.
We should have more
anytime
donkeys
you show me-
too. We
We
should get
should.
donkeys in the.
Or mules.
Shout to mules. Shout to the the army mules.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Anytime you get videos of animals that normally wouldn't interact with one another out in the wild, and you get those videos, I'm a sucker for those every time.
Oh, me
Unlikely
too.
friends. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm a fox. I'm a hound dog.
The zoo in Jersey that we belong to.
Turtleback Zoo?
Turtleback Zoo has a cougar and a golden retriever that are buddies.
Oh man, that's
They hang out in the
adorable.
thing together. They
That
like to
just-
take naps.
That just proves everybody likes a golden retriever.
Everybody
Mhm.
does.
Also, another last TikTok thing that I'll say. There's a guy that says, "White people, why didn't you tell us about this?" He's a black dude, and he's like has a golden retriever. He's like, "White people, why didn't you tell us about golden retrievers?" These dogs are awesome.
They're great. They're
Yeah.
a real treat.
They are. All right, let's do some save rounds and alibis. Cons, we'll start with you.
All right. Very quickly, I have two things. Number one, there is a player on the Army lacrosse team that before their game last weekend at Loyola, Maryland, this kid stopped in Delaware to take the MCATs and then went and played in the game and was awarded Defensive Player of the Week for the
Nerd.
Christian Fournier, like, that's impressive, I think, to take the MCATs and then go play a game. I guess what else are you gonna do? But
Yeah.
I don't even know how one prepares for the MCATs, like how much studying that goes into that.
That
I
to
don't know
be a
where the kid
doctor?
found the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
you get it.
Yeah, to get into medical school.
Yeah, I don't even know
So-
what that test is, so I probably wouldn't do well.
No.
We should do that. Kate, you and I should take the LSAT.
If they were
See
like,
how we would
you
do.
have to take the LSAT or the MCAT or whatever the rest of your life until you die, and if you pass, you get $1 million, I'd just be like, nah, I'm good.
Yep.
I know I wouldn't.
Just end it now.
Yep.
Yeah. I made a massive mistake this past weekend. Really, really
Trusted
bad.
a fart? Or
No. Alex wasn't pleased with me. So we were hosting all weekend. Friday, her girlfriend and husband from home were here for some light apps and some drinks. The woman's pregnant, so just her husband. And then Saturday we had Maggie's pals and their parents from daycare for a late breakfast. And then one of my college buddies came over for dinner with his family. So there was a lot of shopping that had to be done. So Thursday, she picks up Maggie, goes to the 2 different stores to get all the food, forgets about the groceries in the car. I get a text later that evening. Oh my gosh, I forgot the groceries in the car. Can you please go get them out? I go to get them out. I put them on the kitchen table. It didn't occur to me to look inside. It didn't occur to me to put anything away. That was $160 worth of meat and seafood that she came down to in the morning. And I haven't heard her scream that loud in a long time. That wasn't good. So
fucking men, dude. Look in the fucking bag. I feel Alex's rage right now because I know how that goes.
I've had that
friend.
conversation too, for sure. That's been one where it's like, why can't you put everything away? You put 90% of it. Why is there still Cokes on the counter? And why do you have cookies on the counter? You couldn't put those last 2 things away.
You know what I've been doing? Because Mac's going through a big time awake at night thing right now. I'm so tired. I've been putting like milk and yogurt. I get like the cold stuff out of the fridge and then the other stuff out of the pantry to mix it with. And I've been putting the cold stuff back in the pantry and like the granola's in the fridge. And I'm like, where's the fucking yogurt? And I look in the pantry. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
So I've been getting all screwed up lately in that department.
Happens.
But that was a bad thing.
Yeah. That was bad. That was bad. Just, hand up. I'm not perfect like some of you all might think. And then lastly, dude, this hawk has been chowing down on a squirrel this entire time.
Oh God.
Just
cunnilingus or eating it?
Eating it.
What's the difference? Yeah.
All right. That's all I got.
Kate?
I've been doing window watch.
Yeah.
Sitting in my chair, sleeping in my chair. Every time my back hurts, I end up just staying in that chair, which is often. And so I've been looking out my window and I've been trying to not have my phone and just look out at the trees, whatever. My neighbor, I've got all my neighbors memorized. Purple coat lady, George Carlin guy. I've talked about them all in here at length. Remember the fist fight guys?
Yeah.
I caught them on camera fist fighting my neighbors right across the street. Yes. Bigger fist fight guy had a lady friend last night. This was around 11:45.
Oh.
They came stumbling up to the stoop and they looked like they had been out having drinks. He pulls the move. I guess he got her back to his stoop by saying, I have the tools in my house to help you fix your bike or something like that. This is what I'm picking up. I couldn't hear them, but this is like, I'm like, oh, I know.
That's the beginning of an SVU episode.
That's what I was thinking. Then he starts leaning in, trying to kiss her. He goes in the house to get these like tinkering with her bike. And then he's leaning in and she's like, not having it. And then he picks her up like over his shoulder. And I was like, bah, bah. I was like about to call 911. But then I hear her laughing. She's like, ah! She's like, I was like, oh, they're flirting. So I was about to yell, hey, cut it. Psst.
Well, I think it was because you were like, if that happened to me, my back would shatter.
I know. Well, that too. I was like, watch out. You might have a bad back. Don't just.
Yeah.
But anyway,
be careful.
Then they're more tinkering. They're setting her down. She's dodging kisses, but she's laughing. So I was like, ooh. Then I see him like, do you want to come up? Like, come up real quick, whatever. And I was like, oh shit. And then she went up. And I was like, don't go in, honey. Don't. The men are bad. And then she stood in the doorway. She got the dirt off her shoes. And like she was about to step in. And then she changed her mind. And he walked her down the stoop. And she walked off with her bike. And I wanted to be in the window like, ooh.
Why?
Because just love.
You don't want people to fuck at this point in your life?
No, God no.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
should be like me. I got cobwebs on this thing.
Anything else, Kate?
No. There was no point to that story. I'm not saying he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You're just saying just because he has tools to fix your bike doesn't mean you got to be giving up the puss.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was proud of her. Yeah. Not that I would have judged her either way, but I'm just in an
Depends on how messed up the bike was.
I'm going through an anti-man phase right now. And I felt proud of her. She got her bike fixed and she didn't have to do anything for it.
Well, credit to you being anti-man and still doing shows that are all men as your co-hosts.
It's tough. It's tough.
Anything else? No?
I think that's it. That was it. You can cut that too.
No, it's going to stay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Have you guys heard of the ACOTAR series?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, a court of thorns and roses. Have you heard of that?
No, chaps. No. I'm not that big of a nerd.
But there women all over the place are reading those books. You haven't seen them? I'll show you I bet if I show you the book cover, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Does it have a dragon with spikes and stuff? Is it?
Yeah.
Then no.
So it's this.
Absolutely no.
You haven't seen that?
No, I haven't. No.
Cons, have you seen it? Can you see?
Don't move. Oh, yes. I saw you post it, but that's the extent of me seeing it.
Yeah. These are lady books that they say are spicy. Okay. Like the spicy books.
Okay.
Let me just say.
Uh-oh. Very spicy?
Not that spicy. I would even say not spicy enough. I started reading it because
he blasted his seed on her eager bosom, stuff like that.
No seed busted on the bosom. No, which
on her back.
We got some back stuff. But I have made a decision that if a lot of women like the book in the fantasy realm, I'm reading that. Like because it hasn't steered me wrong. Like Hunger Games, for example. Mm-hmm. You had The Fourth Wing. Have you heard of that? Fourth Wing with the dragons and what have you. It's another one. And now this. I read the first one day. Just sat on my couch the whole day.
It's almost like women are good arbiters of taste and what is good.
They are. Fuck dudes. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now we have a 2/3 anti-male podcast.
Yeah, exactly right, Kate.
I'm holding down the fort for guys.
Nux.
Making mistakes.
Like that army captain. We'll see you next week down the retreat.
Oh, Cons, that sucks.